So, hello, and a massive hello to everybody. Here we go for another one of these Substack videos, doing a little bit of an update here on Broadcom. No trade calls, no recommendations, or response with own stuff here for educational purpose only. So I thought this was an interesting chart to cover. So basically here, we've got Broadcom stalling here around these 360 marks, which is just above the 2026 open level after, crazy advance, but having given up quite a lot. It's actually off about 25% from all-time highs after having a very, fairly ugly monthly close here. So where are we, what's going on, and what to expect? Well, basically here we had a very, a strong advance here, especially sparked from the acceleration from the April 2025 lows. Now, if you with a lot of poor structure, a lot of gap ups all the way through, very explosive move. If we look at the move from those April lows all the way back into these, December highs, you can see that we pulled back, front run the 50% retracement and then extended and stalled right at this 123 extension. We stalled here ahead of earnings, then we gapped up. We had 2 days trying to get traction above the 123 extension, and then bam, came right back down. So normally the way you do it is you would move this fib up to the new high. So the 50% retracement of this whole move from the April lows is around 320s. Another thing you could look at is this 50 back of the explosive move from the March 2026 lows into these highs, and what you can see here is that it's not holding the 50, it's taken out the 61.8. So usually when this happens, you expect it to tag the 78.6 retracement. You see that's coming in around the 330s, and we talked about the bigger 50 back was coming in around the 320s. So that's probably a zone which you'd expect to be to act a little bit of as magnet. And also remember that you do have an awful lot of poor structure, a lot of open gaps all the way in this move here, right? And what is the market telling you? Basically, the market is telling you is we had an all-time high that stalled. We tried to get downside traction, and then we had this explosive move, right, with all these gaps to the upside. Once we broke above this key reference point, which was this all-time high, what happens? Well, the market starts to hold, right? It starts to hold in a choppy zone with no real direction. And what tends to happen in these areas is that you get, you see you're trying to get traction to the upside and the downside, but there's, not enough oomph. You can't attract new buyers on breaks higher, and there's no oomph to the downside. You can't attract new sellers to the downside. That downside's being defended. Basically, this previous all-time high, which was previous resistance here, is acting as strong support, but equally it can't get any traction to the upside. Then into those earnings, we get an explosive move with gaps all the way higher, and bam, we come down. Now, what is interesting when we come back down is that, this gap, there is 0, 0, 0 bid here, right? There's no support at that previous high. And actually, we come all the way back down below these lows. So this kind of chop zone, this kind of reference area range that was so pivotal, basically, for quite a number of sessions, had, no interest, completely flush through it. And what happened once we flush through it and we try and come back inside this zone, if I extended, what happens? It's getting sold. So this is telling you there's a lot of downside pressure. There's a lot of technical pressure. You've got the 50-day moving average here. So this looks like a very mechanical move to the downside. So right here, what you would have expected is that the 200 DMA has a confluence of the 100 DMA and the 200 DMA has a lot less importance because they tried to front run it here and you got this mechanical sell. So right now, clearly going forward, what do you have in terms of key levels? You can still carry forward this range as a key pivotal range. You've got this high here, you've got this low, and clearly the 200-day moving average. Now, do we know what's going to happen? No, because nobody has a crystal ball, but there's always three options, right? We could go sideways. We could spend some time hovering here, not doing anything around the 2026 open price, and that's giving us no real new information. We could try and rally aggressively with bids coming in at the 200 DMA, trying to move back through that 407. And to me, that's just still a corrective bounce. That's still not bullish. This is corrective bounce. If we pop back inside this range, this is still green. This is still positive, but I would call this neutral zone, where in general, anytime we're in that zone, it's bullish above and bearish below. And below this, below the 200 DMA, if we can't go sideways and we get no traction, then I would expect price to come back into the 306, back into these lows, right? And remember, you've got a lot of confluence. We discussed it before, that 78.6, that 50% all coming in the 320, 330s. So right here, the way this is looking now, my base case assumption would be more tilted. Of course, price is going to guide, but my base case assumption would be more tilted to the fact that we're going to try and unwind this move and come back into the 306. But as always, you need to let price guide. Bottom line is, I think bigger picture, you know, to really get bullish, you need to get back above this whole area. Now, if you flip to something like a weekly, what do you see? You can see that 306, you've got the 100 week coming in. This is a strong support. So even if we do come back and we get that unwind, you know, bigger picture, you're going to see a lot of people likely wanting to come here. It's going to take something very, very drastic for us to break below that zone. So bigger picture here, looking at the weekly, you could got neutral pretty much 366, top end of the range 407, bottom end of the range 306. So that's basically how I'd be looking at Broadcom, but I think it's an interesting chart to go through, some interesting dynamics to discuss here. Hope this was useful. Wishing everybody an awesome one. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.